Joining me in the studio is the MSYP for Cowdenbeath, one of two MSYPs for Cowdenbeath. He's also the convener for Transport, Environment and Rural Affairs Committee. And if you don't know what I'm on about, he's the member of the Scottish Youth Parliament, a non-party political organisation that tries to empower and give the young people of Scotland a voice. So first of all, Angus, welcome to Radio West Fife.
Hi, thanks for having me along.
Nice to have you here. So first of all, how do you empower the Scottish youth with the Scottish Youth Parliament?
The Scottish Youth Parliament is meant to be a voice for Scotland's young people. We're directly elected representatives. We hold national elections every 2 years. We feel every 4 years is a bit too long. But we cover all the topics that are affecting young people all the time. We're always responding to it. We've got people in the office who work behind the scenes to try and get things out. Government consultations, the most recent one being the equal marriage one, which has been a massive success for us, even if it doesn't go our way.
And not all of the MSYPs are directly elected, are they? They come through national voluntary organisations.
Yeah, there's a few like that. Off the top of my head, Down Syndrome Scotland, Epilepsy Scotland, got one from Scripture Union, Girl Guidance Scotland. Any organisation that can be representing a fairly wide portion of Scotland's young people who might not always be picked up in the direct elections.
Now, we know that the Scottish Youth Parliament does provide a voice for the young people of Scotland, but it does a bit more than that, doesn't it, with some of the other services such as training and consultation services?
No, yeah, I'd say our consultation services are probably among the best. If you go to the office, if you see some of the stuff, if you go into our Facebook page, actually, if you type in official Scottish Youth Parliament, you'll see the consultations that are going out there, and they can sample huge numbers of views from young people in a very, very quick and efficient manner.
So it's effectively primary research that they do?
Yes, yeah, it's a primary research method with the aim of improving the lives of Scotland's young people.
And give us examples of the primary research that the Scottish Youth Parliament have done in conjunction with various organisations.
I'm trying to think. The last one that I can remember of it, because it involved me, was one that we've got a guy in the office called Rob, who's a bit of a legend. He just sends out Survey Monkeys usually every week on some sort of topic, and the last one was the Rail 2014 consultation by the Scottish Government, looking at the future and shape of Scotland's rail services. And I was asked for an input into that, and we were looking to see what young people felt the rail services were good at, like if trains weren't too crowded, or if they were often late, or if they were too expensive. And from that, we managed to formulate an official response to go back to the Scottish Government on what we feel.
And what was the response from them?
The response was that we feel that fares are usually too high, especially for young people. Just because you turn from 15 to 16, your fare doubles. And if you're not aware that you're entitled to a rail card, it can take time to get one out and things. But your circumstances probably haven't overnight. So we think there should be more discounts for young people.
Now, you did mention you were talking about transport there. Your role as the convener for Transport, Environment and Rural Affairs. Now, just tell us a bit more about your role with that.
I lead a committee of MSYPs, members of Scottish Youth Parliament, really from across Scotland. I've got members from Orkney, Shetland, down to Ayrshire. I seem to have half of Fife in there as well.
All right, which always helps.
It does, helps when things go my way. I'm kidding, kidding, they go against me an awful lot. What happens is I try and look at the issues that are being brought up in my members' constituencies, including my own, and I look at ways of dealing with that. I'm going to be writing a letter fairly soon that I'll send off to the committee for approval first about fuel prices in Orkney and Shetland.
I see.
Because they were raising the issue with me that it was up to $1.52 a litre over there. Yeah. And
that's quite high.
There were concerns about funding for air passenger. There's a air passenger discount scheme for people who live out in the outlying islands.
I see.
But that's been cut. And,
that's been cut down, yeah.
Yeah, some of the members are having difficulty coming to sittings.
Now, when you mentioned about the conveners group, just tell us a bit more about what conveners do with the subject committees.
Right, the conveners group, I'd like to say, is kind of, if I can liken it to almost the cabinet of the SYP at times.
I see, right,
we discuss core SYP policy. We decide what should be allowed to lapse every couple of years. Policy that has not been renewed, as it were, is sort of allowed to lapse because considered out of date, since most of the current membership is unlikely to have voted on it. We discuss what happens at sittings. We discuss members' motions, which are actually brilliant invention that we've brought to Youth Parliament sittings, where individual members bring along a motion, they argue the case for it. We had a very, very controversial one back in October, where a member argued that the Scottish Government should stop funding public funding going to religious schools. Places like St Columba's would either be forced to become state schools
or privatised,
or become private schools. A lot of really, really good debate on it, but in the end it was argued that that really shouldn't be the case.
That shouldn't be a case at all. And it's quite a contrast to what the procedures group do, which they ensure that that people like you and I get a say in any policies that could be proposed.
Yeah, the procedures group runs sort of alongside it. We've got the conveners group that has an influence in policy. The procedures group just has an influence in making sure that everyone really has access and that everything sort of is well oiled, as it were.
Well-oiled, oiling the cogs, as it were. Yes,
it's a very well-oiled machine, SYP.
Sounds like it. Now, you did say you were involved in several campaigns in the last few months, and one of them is, one of your latest ones is the Vote 16 one, which is actually a national campaign taken by several organisations, but it's not exactly a brand new issue, is it?
No, Votes at 16 has been going on for a while. SYP has always been behind Votes at 16. We think that it's vital that if young people are allowed to join the army, if they're allowed to get married, start a family, buy a house, even learn to drive before they're allowed to vote, and that's quite frankly ridiculous. The main point that a lot of people quote is no taxation without representation, and young people's voices are still not being heard. So we think that it's absolutely fundamental that young people should be allowed to vote. Even
though it's great to give young people a democratic say in how the country is run, surely it's 18 for a reason, because if you look at what the Electoral Commission had said recently, that if we do change the voting age down to 16, there would have to be amendments to the current legislation, and the Scottish Government would have to set out how it intends to work with the UK Government to develop and introduce to the UK Parliament such amendments. And if I can also quote as well from Michael White, who's the assistant political editor at The Guardian, he believes that it comes at an odd time because we're taking responsibilities such as buying tobacco and drink away, and with such critics like that, how do you answer such critics like that to say that move it down to 16 is a good idea?
Because I think young people, for a start, deserve a lot more credit than they're due. We don't. That's what people are saying. Obviously, we deserve a lot more credit. That's my argument. We are, I'd like to think, intelligent enough. I'd like to think we are mature enough. If you're going to use that sort of argument, then surely the voting age should be taken right up. But this taking rights of buying tobacco off young people, it's just ridiculous. Tobacco, there's issues with that already. It should be up to, I don't know, really, to be honest. I don't see what relevancy it has to do with voting. It's just smoking a particularly unpleasant substance.
Do you think if such legislation was able to go through, do you think that many 16, 17-year-olds would actually bother to vote?
I think they would. In the Scottish Youth Parliament elections, we had a national turnout of around 10%, which sounds pretty awful. It's not. It's actually very, very good given the circumstances. Given that most of our voting takes places in high schools, not every high school lets us in, not every college is aware of us to let us in or to bring their awareness to us. Not all local authorities take part either. The one that I can think of at the moment is Nahiel and Shiar, just because the travel costs for them, so the Western Isles don't take part in that at all. But 10% out of what we do is pretty fantastic. So if we can, I think it would be closer to at least a minimum of 20% in national elections. And the main point is that if even just one young person votes, then it's an infinite amount more than what would have gone previously.
What would have been previously. Now, if such legislation was to be put through, do you think this could translate beyond the UK? Would other European countries maybe take perhaps maybe an example of that?
I think other European countries would do well to take an example from the UK. I think Vote 16 is very important. I think the power of social media we're seeing with the Arab uprisings is becoming very popular. Even in the most recent Coney 2012
I see.
So
yes,
young people can make their voice heard, but at the moment they still can't vote.
They still can't vote, of course. So just to round all of this up, now it sounds like we could go on forever and a day talking about this, but sadly we are running tight for time, and we've got other things to do as well. But how can we find out more about the Scottish Youth Parliament?
The best thing to do if you want to find out more about the Scottish Youth Parliament is go to www.syp.org.uk. You can always bung me an email. It's angus.duncan.msyp@sypmail.org.uk. It's a bit of a mouthful, but if in doubt, just go to the website. It's all there anyway.
It's all there.
Yep.
It's all there for you to see. So now, we're not quite finished with Angus yet. You're not escaping just yet. He was nearly about to make a run out of the studio, but not quite, because we're going to come back after the Crystals, and we're going to talk about your column in the Dunfermline Press, which I think will be one massive, perhaps justified, shameless plug.
Oh yes.
So here's Da Doodoo Ron Ron and his selection of music. So that's 1 till 3 Wednesday afternoons. Right, back to Friday evening. We're in the second hour of the Friday Night Lounge, and we're talking to Angus Duncan, MSYP for Cowdenbeath, and we've just talked about your involvement in the Youth Parliament and one of the campaigns that we've been discussing. Now I want to move this on to something that's a bit more personal to you, what you do in a certain local newspaper. Occasionally, it's your Youth Say column. So how did you become involved in the Youth Say?
The editor, Simon Harris, got in contact with the Youth Parliament. He got in contact with the coordinator at Fife Council, essentially saying that he'd like to have more young people relate to his paper, and I can understand why. So me and the then MSYP for Dunfermline at the time, Claire Ewing, were asked to write a few columns. And really, I've just kept doing them ever since then.
And what attracted you to doing the column in the first place?
What attracted me? Well, firstly, being able to get my voice out there, which is always good, letting people know what I'm doing. But I'm wanting to go into journalism myself. So any experience in a newspaper is absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic. Now, it's not... now, when people think a columnist in a newspaper, they think you just write a whole load of words and they just somehow fill the pages up in a newspaper. But it's not exactly the most easiest job, is it?
No, it's kind of like trying to carefully balance a rant and a well-defined argument at the same time.
And how many corrections did you have from the editor in your early articles?
At the start, I had to get into it. I had to sort of find my style. But I still have every single column that I've ever written. And occasionally I look back at them and you can see exactly how they change. Occasionally I look in, sometimes there's a few changes, sometimes wee bits have been cut out, but most of the time I'd say it's pretty much what I've written goes almost certainly straight into the paper. Now
there's some of them that we've seen on the Dunfermline Press website, and I remember seeing an article months and months back. You'll know the one I'm on about here.
Yes, I do.
It's the one that you were talking about, the underage drinking in Silver Sands. Now, not only it was a fantastic article, and it was a real eye-opener, and it actually kind of echoed what I thought as well about underage drinking, that young people are kind of usually persecuted.
Yeah, there was that was an interesting one. I'm not sure what happened there, because I've written far more controversial articles for the press in my time, but this one ended up in the website and it was picked up by a few people, and there are a few people who just rant and moan on the press website. Most of them have perfectly good arguments, but there's just a few moaners out there. But what happened on mine was there was a very, very mixed response, and there was a hell of a lot of a response at the same time. Basically, young people had been going down to the Silver Sands in Aberdare, just walking down my street, in fact, to get there, and they had been drinking. Now, I don't support that. What I didn't support either was the police's response to it, which was almost a very heavy-handed approach. It was to go in there, flying down there with the police cars and the vans, sort of implying that they're going to lift anyone that they catch. And so people just ran everywhere.
I think what I remember most about that article, as I say, not only it was a refreshing article to talk about for someone, a young person, to say, hang on, we don't always think about being a rebel and try and trouble with law. One of the I think there was a real argument on the website, and I can remember one of the comments, and I thought this was just absolutely legendary in terms of comic genius. Well, out of the serious discussion and debate and personal attacks to you, from what I read, there was one that said, "I like bacon."
Yes, there was. Someone put "I like bacon" in between all of that. I should emphasise that I don't support anyone who goes out there,
of course,
drinking underage. However, the vast majority of people aren't irresponsible underage drinkers at the same time, and anyone who wants to comment on any of my articles with "I like bacon," feel free.
Feel free. They'll guarantee us some comedy gold, I think. So I remember seeing that, and I think I was laughing for about 10 minutes non-stop. I just couldn't stop laughing.
I've mixed bag of emotions reading through that, getting a bit wound up, and then just dying with laughter at some of the responses people had written.
Fantastic. I think there's
great to see that people actually read my columns. Great to see that people actually get that annoyed by it. I don't try to be annoying. I try to pick up on serious issues, and I'd say a lot more people agreed with me than disagreed. And
you try and touch the pulse of what everyone's thinking.
Yeah, touch the pulse, not touch the nerve.
Not touch the nerve. Well, you try not to do that.
Oh yeah.
So of course, we can see you now and again in the Youth Say column. Obviously, it alternates with various other columnists. But I think that particular one is actually on the website. So if you can go to dunfermlinepress.co.uk and do a Google search on Angus, you'll know the article that I'm on about. And just go through the comments section, because even that is just as an entertaining read, if not even more entertaining than the article.
Some good debate in there too.
There's some good debate.
There's some genuine points raised, but...
So,
I think some people took it the wrong way, or wanted to take it the wrong way, perhaps.
Or maybe didn't take it too seriously enough by claiming their love for bacon, I think. But so we can find that out at Dunfermline Press.
Oh, yes.
So, Angus, well, it's an absolute pleasure to have you in the studio, so thank you very much for coming on to the Friday Night Lounge.
Thank you.